There we go.
We are live. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Tuesday edition on MYBC Consulting's page called the MYBC Virtual Bookstore. And I don't know, my guest can see I've got my little favorite teapot and my teacup ready to go because we're all talking about books. And as I announced at the beginning of the year, I started on my own website, MyBC Consulting, the MyBC Virtual Bookstore, and it's something what we can do. And as I've explained in the past, is to me when you hold somebody's book in your hand, you are holding a part of their art. And it's up to us to read it, digest it, appreciate it, and make sure we are sending it on. And if there's a line or a sentence in there that resonates and you know a who that needs to hear that word, it does the world no good until we're going to share. So I'm so excited tonight, and I'm going to preface this again, a little shout out to my girl, Lachelle. She is just hooking me up with some amazing authors who are writing books, both fiction, nonfiction, and everywhere in between. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce Robert A. Heath Sr. To the MyBC Virtual Bookstore Author Series. Good evening, Robert.
Good evening. Good evening. Thanks for having me, Jeanette.
Absolutely. So can you tell us where you're located in the world? I always like to know where people are these days.
Well, we're currently located in Grand Rapids, Michigan, just outside in the small little town of Allendale. I'm originally from Chicago, Illinois, but my wife is from up here. So when I got out of the Marine Corps, she wanted to move back close to where her family was. So we came up this way.
I have been to Grand Rapids, Michigan, just to let everybody know. I am in Langley, British Columbia, which is 7 o'clock PST, and where you are, I think it is 10 o'clock.
Yes, Eastern Standard Time.
Just about ready to tuck himself into bed. So I really appreciate that you coming on. So I always like to say, unpack the process of writing a book. And part of that process is your background. So can you tell everybody your background, please?
Yeah, a little bit about my background. I'll save you the long story, but basically, I have been studying leadership for the past 20 years, and it really started when I was coming out of undergraduate. I got my degree in economics and speech communications. I wanted to impact my community. I wanted to help to really reverse generational poverty, to really look at what's going on in inner city communities and urban communities and what that was. And so I went and got my master's degree in education. I went to be a teacher. They talk about knowledge is power, education is the way. And so I went and I taught. And I taught Spanish in high school and middle school, which allowed me to do a number of other things in the school. I taught Spanish. I was also a club sponsor, a basketball coach, and a school improvement team coordinator and things like that. And over that period of time, I got to see that there were a number of things that affected the education process that had nothing to do with the actual teachers, right? Leadership was one of those major things that was missing in the educational process. And I was on the superintendent track, and all the way on down, when I looked at superintendents on down, there were a lot of things that people were missing. The ability to really move people to do what they want to do. A lot of it was authoritarian style. It was cutting people down or talking bad about them or putting pressure or threatening. And what I got to see was I was a union rep while I was a teacher. I was part of a blue ribbon committee in a school. Like I said, I was a school improvement team coordinator for my high school. And one of the things that I got to see was just all of the kind of ins and outs of that. So fast forward, I saw the superintendent of the schools, Memphis City Schools at that time was the 20th largest school district in the country. And I saw the power dynamics play out between the superintendent, the former superintendent of schools, who is now the mayor and had been the mayor for about 20 years of Memphis. And then all of the different power dynamics with unions and parents and Chamber of Commerce and all the rest of that. And what was interesting was, even though the superintendent was more than qualified to do the job, even though she had done a turnaround of a school system in the past, it was interesting to see that she didn't understand the levers of power. She didn't have the cachet that she needed. She didn't have the leverage that she needed to make things happen. So I realized that being qualified wasn't enough. And there were some things about leadership that I need to learn and to understand. So fast forward, I go to do two things. Number one, to learn about the system, and number two, to learn how to lead. And so the system was done in my legal studies. I went to law school, the University of Illinois, graduated, got my law degree, and learned really how our laws are made, how the systems are built. I studied corporations, I studied state and local governments, I studied real estate development and property rights and property law, and how we see this social contract that we have, right? And then I also went to, on the leadership side, to the best leadership training academy in the world and joined the United States Marine Corps. You see up there the Eagle
Oh,
Globe and Anchor
wow.
behind me. And I became a Marine Corps officer. So that was kind of, and during that period of time, I litigated. I was a defense counsel for a number of years and did some general litigation. But then I also was a company commander in the Marine Corps, and that was, I like to say, that was my leadership capstone program. I commanded a company of about 220 Marines and sailors that by the time I finished, we had been augmented up to 360 Marines and sailors. And I still had my staff of about 5. So we had to do almost twice as
Wow.
much work with the same amount of people. And so it was, that was the journey. And now after I got out of Marine Corps, I realized that I could help those organizations, those people to get more done, to feel like they don't have to have that authoritarian, totalitarian type of leadership, that command and control, micromanagement. And so what I do now is I help leaders to get the best out of themselves and those that they lead, from small business all the way up to corporate Fortune 500 companies.
So there's just a little bit to unpack there, just to let you know in your life. What's piquing my interest right now is when we hear about Marine Corps and we hear about, whether it's our Canadian Army, the Marine Corps, how that is such an authoritative or authoritarian, as you say, way of leading. Is how did you unpack that? Because when you go there, there's your leader, you follow what you're supposed to do, dun dun dun, and it's much like in a teaching situation where you're given the rubric, and as a teacher you have to follow through on that rubric. That's what you're leading in order to get the outcome. So how did you figure that out without, let's say, either bucking the trend or bucking what the Marine Corps expected of you? Let's put it that way.
Right. Well, and this is one of the interesting things about military in general, but the Marine Corps specifically. There's a misconception a lot of people have. While the Marine Corps is a hierarchical structure, it is not a command and control structure. It's actually, in my Marine Corps leadership training, what we were taught was decentralized command, that you want to push decisions down to be made at the lowest level that they can possibly be made. As a matter of fact, we push leadership all the way down to the lowest level. There's a saying that we have in the Marine Corps that says, if 2 Marines are together, one of them's in charge. And it's just that kind of idea of, there's always responsibility, there's always accountability. You never get to kind of say, well, that's not my job, or I don't need to do that, or I don't even pay attention. You're always being pushed into a position of leadership. You're always being pushed into a position of thinking about this, not just from the perspective of a follower, but from the perspective of someone who is actually part of the organization, thinking and understanding what the end state is supposed to be. And so that was something that I learned in the Marine Corps that really, it opened my eyes to, how we could really get a ton done. And the way that you do that is through empowerment. It's not through command and control and micromanagement.
Oh, fascinating. I learn something new every day. I just love stories. I just love learning stories. So what prompted you to want to write, what's the name of your book again?
So the first book in this series is called Thriving in Chaos. So this is the second book here up on my shoulder. And it's interesting because they actually got written in the opposite order. I wrote this book first, Why Can't People Just Do Their Jobs? And this was the book that was about how to become an empowering leader. The question that I heard from so many people in leadership, especially that micromanaging style of leadership, is why can't people just do their jobs? Why can't they just get it done? And so this was the first book that I wrote. And what I realized was, as I was teaching and working with leaders to get to understanding how to transform into the type of leader that can lead anyone, one of the core steps that they struggled with was finding the time to do the work that they needed to do as a leader, because they were spending so much time doing other work. And so the first book in this series, this is the Legacy Leader series, is called Thriving in Chaos: How to Manifest Your Greatness While Doing More and Working Less. And that book is really a kind of treatise on how do you master your time? How do you get yourself off of the hamster wheel of always being busy, right? Many of us get to this point where the job gets big enough to actually take all of our time. You know, a lot of us as we grow up, we're overachievers. Many of my clients are super achievers. They do well. Their 50% is the same as a lot of people's 80, 90, 100%. And so they've never had to struggle to find time to get the job done in their lives normally. There's more than enough time for them to take care of themselves, take care of their family, take care of work. But then they get to this point, and it normally happens somewhere around middle management to senior management level, where the job is really big. It's amorphous and it's abstract, and they don't really get clear delineation from their bosses. So the job is really big. It's requiring more of them. Plus, their family has gotten to a point where it's requiring more of them. They may have children, they may have parents that they're taking care of, or some sort of complicated family dynamic. And what they've been squeezing for a long time is not taking care of themselves. And they get to a point where that's unsustainable. They know they're going to burn out. They know that it's coming, and they just don't know when. And that's generally when they come to me. And that's what the book Thriving in Chaos really deals with. It's the 5 steps of how do you master your time? How do you take back your time? How do you take back your energy, your passion, instead of constantly managing other people's priorities and putting out fires for everybody else? Figuring out how to live every day in alignment with your purpose and moving every day towards your goals, towards your dreams, and realizing that from the abundance of your cup, you can fill up everybody else's cup, but an empty cup can fill no one.
Yeah, true enough. I often say that time is the ultimate currency. It's the
Yes.
ultimate currency, and how we spend it is so important. And making sure that there is that value that comes back out to as our
Yes.
connections, out to our collaborators, out to our community, and of course to ourselves. So
Yes.
fascinating. So can you walk us through a little bit, because people are watching this. I hope you're going to watch this, and if you're spurred to write a book, like I'm writing
Mm-hmm.
my book this year, and it's a very right now hodgepodge of ideas.
Mm-hmm.
What was your systematic approach using your time well to
Mm-hmm.
write your book?
Well, the first thing that I did is, and I always tell everybody this: if you haven't done something before, find a coach, find a mentor, find somebody that's done it before, because it'll save you a ton of time. And here's the main reason why. It's not so much that they're going to give you some magic pill to do it right. But what they are going to be able to do is, because they've been down the pathway before, they're going to be able to help you to see how to overcome obstacles that you don't even recognize yet. And that was one of the biggest things for me. So when I wrote Why Can't People Just Do Their Jobs, I hired the amazing Dr. Angela Loria over at the Author Incubator, and worked with her team. And she has a process. And so we outlined it, we did it. I had a manuscript in less than 10 weeks. I actually had written the manuscript in less than 2 weeks. We got it all the way finished, and the initial drafts and initial manuscript was done in less than 10 weeks, and we had actually published in less than 3 months. I mean, less than 4 months.
And how is your story, the book that you have now? How has it been received? What are some of the reviews that you've gotten on Thriving in Chaos? Oh my gosh! And that word chaos, I think I know my chaos is very different than your chaos is different than the guy next door's chaos.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a great word. It's a word I haven't heard often. Is
Yeah,
chaos? I love
yeah,
that title. So
yeah.
how are
So, well,
the
it was
reviews going?
it came in really well. We actually became we were Amazon bestseller for new releases in time management, interestingly enough. And so one of the things that we did, one of the things that people have said is, "Oh my God, it feels like you're talking directly to me" when they read the book. And there's a couple of tools and tips in the book that I help people with. But one of the biggest things that the reviews that have come in has talked about is just how much of a weight was lifted off of their shoulders of realizing that they weren't the only ones that were struggling with this. Because, see, I wrote this book specifically to high achievers, right? A lot of people who are the successful ones, right? The above average ones, the ones who don't feel like they should be struggling, are the ones who struggle and suffer in silence. And we struggle and we suffer in silence because we have developed an identity of always being able to handle it. if I just work harder, things will work. And you reach this point where that doesn't happen, and it feels like something's wrong with you. And so in the
Mhm.
book, one of the things that I take people through is the understanding of this is a natural progression, this is a natural transition in your life. And this is the point where you have to learn how to maximize your time. This is the point where you have to learn something that most high achievers hadn't learned at that point in their lives yet, and that's how to say no.
Oh, oh, the smallest word in the English language and the most powerful word ever. I think in this
Exactly.
past, 10 months, as we've all been going through, what we're going through to adapt,
Hmm.
it's been
Hmm.
so easy to step into the YES into everything, but to step into the no is so powerful. Wow, great book.
Exactly.
I gotta read. Oh, I
Yeah.
still have to read that. I
Definitely.
forgot to mention while I was going, if you have any questions for Robert, throw them into the comments. I don't have a moderator tonight. He will go back and watch the video or look underneath the comment section and get back to any questions that you may have. Wow,
Hmm.
fascinating. So book one is out, Thriving in Chaos. So
Hmm.
you're doing it backwards, which is interesting. When will the next book be out?
So book one and book two in the series are out. So Thriving,
Okay.
Why Can't People Just Do Their Jobs came out in 2018. It also was a bestseller when it came out. And this was a book, again, it was talking to leaders who were managing teams and really struggling, figuring out did they hired the wrong team? Were they doing something wrong? And it just really frustrated and feeling like they constantly, they try to put energy out and try to tell their team what to do, but it always just seems to take longer when they're working with their teams. They know if they were doing it, they could just get it knocked out, but now they're working with their team and it feels like it's taking longer. That came out in 2018. We published Thriving in Chaos in 2020. And kind of to your point a little bit earlier, the whole thing about it is chaos is always there, right? And chaos is basically the fact that everything is constantly changing. There's an old Chinese book of wisdom called the I Ching, which is over 4,000 years old. And one of the things that it says in that book is that the only constant in life is change, right? And that's why the book is the book of changes. It is basically the entire book is talking about the changes that happen in life. And so many in the Marine Corps, what we've learned, and this is where I got the title "Thriving in Chaos." One of the things that we're taught in a book called War Fighting, when we're first taught, one of the first books we read as officers is war and the battle space is chaotic. You're never going to have perfect information. You're never going to be able to make a perfect plan. And even if you were able to make a perfect plan, you have an enemy on the other side who is counteracting everything that you're trying to do. A living, breathing, thinking person is trying to do the exact opposite, and that's how life works. And so those that try to kind of manage everything and order everything are going to go crazy. The people who are able to be successful on the battle space and in real life are the people who are able to thrive in the chaos that exists. And so it's not about managing everything that's out there, right? Stephen Covey said it, control the controllables. The whole idea is, how do I thrive in chaos? And one of the things that I teach people in the book are the 5 steps for maximizing your time. The one thing that you have complete control over is how you spend your time on this planet. Everything else you can't control, but you can control how you spend your time. And so in the book, I teach people how to take back control over their time and how to figure out not just how to get everything done that they want to get done, but how to use the abundance that creates to still give back to other people, to still pour into other people, to still
Mhm.
do things for other people, but to also figure out other ways to bless people that don't require as much of your time, as much of your energy, but still give you the same type of return.
Wow. Whoo, that is. Oh, you're going to sell a lot of. Well, I'm sure you've sold a lot of books because it's a bestseller, and I'm so pleased that I've got about 1,400, just approaching 1,500 people on my BC Consulting's
Awesome.
page that are going to be learning again about this book. And it's my webmaster was getting it up today, so the link will be up
Hmm.
today for you to purchase it. Uh,
Awesome. Awesome. And we still have it on special right now. So it's under
okay.
$5.
Oh my gosh, $5, 5 steps.
Yes.
Oh, that's a bargain. I would say in my life a little something funny. When something goes beyond a bargain, it goes to a bargoon. That is a bargoon, Robert. Oh my gosh, thank you so much for making sure that everybody is aware. Any last words that you'd like to share with my book of, I think we're called, what is that word? Oh, uh, there's a book, not bookophile. No, there's a word that people who love books. Oh, I can't remember.
Oh, is it Librafile?
Bibliophile.
Bibliophile, that's it.
My bibliophile followers out there. Any
Yes.
last words to?
Yes. Well, the one thing that I would say to everybody is, my kind of ethos, my manifesto, the point of my company is I believe that everybody has greatness within them, that we have a divine purpose, that we're here for a reason. And my goal is to help you to manifest that greatness, to help you to bring that forward. And so this book is the first step in learning how to lead yourself, how to manifest your greatness, how to really maximize your time, interruption proof your life, and begin to get the most out of every day that you spend on this planet, so that every day you can wake up refreshed, you can wake up excited, you can wake up feeling like you are living your dreams, living your purpose. So go get the book. It's a great resource for you. There's plenty of action steps that are in there. And if you have any questions or anything like that, if anybody that's listening has any questions, feel free to reach out to me. I love to talk to people. I love to chat. And you can reach me. My email address is robert@legacyleadershipmastery.com. Again, that's Robert at legacy, Legacy, leadershipmastery.com. And just let's chat.
Thank you so much. I have a little phrase that I come up with, and it's in order, I must be a leader of one before I can one. And it's ONE and WON. So I must be a leader of one before I can go one. So thank you so much for sharing your time tonight. I'm sure you're all riled up and it's 10 o'clock and you're about to go to sleep. So read a good book before you go to sleep. That might kind of calm your brain down a little bit. So thank you so much. Tune in again next Tuesday night at 7 o'clock Pacific Standard Time. I've got authors, guys, lined up until the end of April. So if you've gotten a book, written a book, and you'd like to get it up on the MyBC virtual bookstore, just let me know. Send me a direct message. I'd love to talk to you. I am the steward of a lot of art in my home. I'm the steward of a lot of people's words in books, and I so appreciate everybody tuning in tonight. So thank you so much, Robert. Enjoy, and we will definitely be in touch.
Thank you so much. Have a great one, Jeanette.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.